Will Haason Reddick be traded? Well, before it happens, Haason Reddick himself has something to say about it. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, Dingbat here. Hope everybody's having a great day. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're hanging in there. So we got some news from Haason Reddick today in the whole situation. And I actually think this is really encouraging, really good news for Eagle fans. Because we're all trying to figure out, are the Eagles going to actually trade Haason Reddick? Are they going to trade their most impactful defensive player, a guy who knocked out the 49ers single-handedly, dominated in the playoffs the year they went to the Super Bowl? Are they really willing to move on from him? Or is it negotiations and part of the process of getting an extension? And really, if Haason Reddick wants out, you're kind of stuck. So we're all wondering, what does Haason Reddick want? Well, guess what? Haason Reddick has finally spoken up about exactly what he wants. And I think this is very encouraging news for the Eagles, because it's important, in my opinion, that the Eagles find a way to keep him. You just don't let your best defensive players go, okay? Now, shout out to my man, Jordan Schultz. Shout out to him. He spoke to Haason Reddick, and Haason Reddick told him this. Here's what Jordan Schultz said. Shout out to him. Just spoke to Pound Eagles, not hashtag, all-pro pass rusher Haason Reddick, who tells me he never requested a trade, and he wants to stay in Philly. That's what I'm talking about, Haason. He says, quote, I would like to get an extension done here at home. At no point did I ever tell the organization I wanted to be traded. Reddick has 1 year left on his deal with no guaranteed money left. He said, quote, this is home for me. I was born and raised here. 2 of my funnest years playing football in my life came here. I've cherished being an Eagle. So that's what Haason Reddick said, okay? And then when that was posted on Twitter, he also chimed in this after. Never asked for a trade. However, I do understand it's a business preparing for whatever is next. So Haason Reddick is not looking to be traded. Okay, let's get that straight. He's not looking to be traded. And why is that important? Because if he wants out, if he wants to get traded, in my opinion, when players want out and they want to get traded, I know a lot of times teams will keep them and they'll fight it, but to me, it's over at that point. You know, if a guy don't want to be there, it ain't going to help you to keep him. And at that point, you really have no choice but to trade him. Haason Reddick also, though, is looking for an extension. He made this clear back in training camp that he was going to want to redo his contract, that he was going to want an extension. He is going to want to get paid like he deserves to get paid. Haason Reddick has been one of the most impactful defensive players the last 4 years. I mean, this is a guy, first guy, in history to have double-digit sacks on 3 different teams 3 years in a row. He is now in his 4th year of double-digit sacks. And he would have had more sacks this year if we didn't have all this situation with our defensive coordinator. But I don't know how you can sit there and say, yes, let's trade this guy when he's your best defensive player. And I truly mean it. You know, Jalen Carter may be, the young, most talented defensive player you have on your team. But when it comes to impactfulness, a guy who makes impacts, who creates things, Haason Reddick is that guy. And people want to say, well, he's a one-trick pony and he only does this and he can't cover and he can't do anything else. Then let him rush the passer. Let him go out and get sacks, okay? Because in this league, if you want to have a successful defense, you better get to the quarterback. And nobody on the Eagles does it better than Haason Reddick. And when you're looking at losing Brandon Graham, possibly, because even if you bring Brandon Graham back cheap, he's still on the back end of his career. Derek Barnett was a bust. Some people might get mad at me saying that, but he's not here anymore. He was a first-round pick. And Nolan Smith did not show you enough last year that I can sit there and I can go out there and keep him. So to me, it doesn't make sense to not keep Haason Reddick unless you're in a total rebuild. And if you're in a total rebuild, then why would you bring Nick Sirianni back? Start over, clean house, and start over, okay? But they're not in a rebuild. But they don't want to pay Reddick $25 million. I get it. Haason Reddick wants to stay in Philly. He wants an extension in Philly. He may not get it. And if he doesn't get his extension in Philly, he'll do what's best for him. That's the way it is. So, yes, Haason Reddick wants to get paid. You're going to have to give him an extension. However, the Eagles have at least a situation where Haason Reddick wants to be a part of the Eagles, wants to stay in Philly. He loves playing with the Eagles. And I think that if both the Eagles and Haason Reddick both want him to come back, he'll be back. He will be back. And I think what Howie Roseman is doing is actually pretty smart. You know, he is saying to Haason Reddick, we don't want to pay you $25 million, and we don't know that you could get that in the open market. Go out there, see what other teams would pay you, and then come back to us. And the Eagles could match it. And I bet you Howie Roseman knows kind of what Haason Reddick's value is, and he figures when he goes out there and sees what he's going to get, it'll be a lot easier to work out a contract. So to me, I think this is actually really good news that the Eagles got today. And by Reddick speaking up, this tells me Haason Reddick doesn't want to go. And if he doesn't want to go, then there's a way, hopefully, to work this thing out. I think Haason Reddick needs to come back to Philly, okay? There's a lot of different rumors and different mock scenarios for Haason Reddick already, and none of them excite me at all, okay? Here's a situation. Jay Grabati at Birds Country wrote, the Atlanta Pound Falcons have shown initial interest in trading for Philadelphia Pound Eagles star pass rusher Haason Reddick, sources at the Liberty Line Philly say. What do you think you're going to get for Haason Reddick going to Atlanta? You're not going to get a player. I've seen some things online where people are talking about Kyle Pitts and stuff. It's not going to happen. You're only going to get a draft pick, okay? So I don't see you getting another player. I see you getting only a draft pick. What kind of draft pick? You're not getting a first-round pick for a 30-year-old. It's not going to happen. So at best, maybe at best, a second-round pick. Do you want to trade Haason Reddick, a guy who you know is good for double-digit sacks for probably at least a few more years? Do you want to get rid of him and then draft a second-round pick who probably won't see the field based upon how the Eagles use their rookies? That's the question that I have. Would you really want that? There's also PFF that did a mock trade for Haason Reddick. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. And they're talking about trading Haason Reddick to the Houston Texans for a second-round pick. To me, trading Haason Reddick for a second-round pick, it's not enough. It's really just not enough for me to want to trade him. A second-round pick is good, and if you pick the right player in a few years, he could help you and all those kind of things. But immediate impact-wise, you're not going to get that production by getting rid of Haason Reddick. You're just not. So to me, trading Haason Reddick for a second-round pick isn't very appealing. So that Houston mock trade is probably just about the best you could do in terms of a trade for Haason Reddick. Do you really just want to get another second-round pick, put it in Howie Roseman's hand to nail that second-round pick, and then go out and lose your best pass rusher and your best defensive player, or most impactful defensive player? It doesn't make sense to me. Haason Reddick never requested a trade. We all know that. But he is asking for a new contract extension. And that is important to know. Okay? So something is going to have to give. Something is going to have to be done. But the fact that Haason Reddick at least wants to stay in Philly and at least wants a contract extension in Philly, that's a good sign. I think that's really good. Now, if in a case in this scenario, right, let's say you're going to trade Haason Reddick. Let's say the team decides we're not going to be able to extend him. He knows he's going to get a contract somewhere else. We're going to have to trade him. You cannot trade Haason Reddick until you go out there and in free agency and get the best pass rusher you can, like Brian Burns, or if somehow Josh Allen could squeeze free in Jacksonville, which I don't think will happen. But you can't just let Reddick go and replace him with nothing. Even drafting a defensive end or a pass rusher in the first round, it's not going to replace Reddick and his statistics and what he gives you in the first year. Maybe a few years down the road, sure. Is it going to be cheaper? Sure. Trading Haason Reddick means that you have to go out in free agency and you have to get the best pass rusher that you can get. You're going to have to pay somebody a lot of money to be a pass rusher for this team. So they have no choice. In my opinion, the Eagles need another pass rusher regardless. Even if you keep Haason Reddick, I still think you need another pass rusher. It's a shame we didn't see more from Nolan Smith. You know, if Nolan Smith had went out and looked promising, had like 7, 8 sacks his rookie year, I could understand you wanting to make that move and you're saying, all right, it's time. But you didn't get that from him. And I'm not saying he won't give you that down the road, but it's just, you can't risk it at this point. So if the Eagles do decide to trade Haason Reddick, which I hope they don't, you have to go out there in free agency first, and you have to acquire the best pass rusher you can get to replace him. Then, only then, can you trade Haason Reddick. If they go and trade Haason Reddick and don't replace him as a pass rusher this year, if you don't replace him with somebody, you're going to see an even worse defense next year. It's going to be even more brutal. To me, there's no benefit in trading Haason Reddick. You're not going to get what you deserve to get from him, and you're not going to get something that will help you right away. I don't believe that there ever could be a situation where you have Reddick and a first-round pick and you get Patrick Surtain. I think the Surtain trade rumors are all bogus. I don't think Denver will do it unless they're going to get themselves a franchise quarterback. So at the end of the day, it's beneficial for the Eagles and Haason Reddick to stay in Philly. So let's get an extension done. Do it in a way that, you know, works for the Eagles and works for Haason Reddick. They're going to have to figure out something. Maybe you can do it for a couple years and then he can move on from there. I don't know. I don't know what they do, but this is what Howie Roseman does best. He does contracts. He figures these things out, and we just got to let him go to work. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. And of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's Howie Vision. We're all just living in it. You know, I can't help but wonder what Haason Reddick's agent is playing in all this. Like, did he leak out that the Eagles gave Reddick permission to seek a trade to kind of force their hand, to kind of put pressure on the Eagles? You know, it's interesting that comes out, and then Reddick is now saying, I never requested a trade. No, we know he didn't request a trade, but he is asking for at least a contract extension. So you wonder where the agent is on this. You wonder how much of the Eagles allowing Reddick to seek a trade is actually true. You know, I don't think the Eagles want to trade him. I think at the end of the day, I think the Eagles want Reddick to know what his market value is so that they can work a deal out with him. I think I'll give it an 80% chance Haason Reddick is an Eagle next year. Denzel Washington, out.